will begin in approximately 5 minutes. KC9UDX net control here. I'll take this opportunity to say hello to anybody watching this in the future. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you're not already. That really helps. YouTube doesn't really care too much about most of us that don't have so few subscribers, so they don't really spread around most of our videos so people can find them. So the more subscribers, the better. Hopefully the live stream stays up this month so that I don't have to splice two of them together. But that didn't work too bad last month either, so whatever happens, happens. I see nobody's watching at this time, but I expect there will be people watching in the future. So you'll probably hear me saying this, unless the network connection is cutting me out here. So another 2.5 minutes or so and we'll be underway. Good evening. This is Kilo Charlie Niner Uniform Delta X-Ray. My name is Matt and I welcome you to the 2 a.m. net. The purpose of this net is to promote the use of amplitude modulation and also to establish this part of this band as a place for AM area. Everyone is invited to listen. Licensed amateurs who can do so legally are encouraged to check in. All traffic for this net will be directed by this net control station. We listen in the AM mode and transmit in the AM mode where possible. It looks like I have the wrong script here. This is an older script. Oh well, if you can AM, we encourage you to listen in AM and transmit in FM. If you are transmitting in FM, please adjust your transmit frequency about 3 kcs above or below from our receive frequency. This facilitates the use of slope detection, that is, demodulating your FM signal with our AM receivers. When checking in, please announce your call sign in standard phonetics. This is KC9UDX. My name is Matt, and I will now begin accepting check-ins. Any stations wishing to check in, please come now.
Good evening, Matt, W9JCC.
Hi, Frank. Welcome back. Recognizing W9JCC. Do we have anybody else? Hearing none. Happy New Year, Frank. And the YouTube stream cut out here 2 or 3 times, but it seems to have recovered by itself. So hopefully it stays recovering by itself when that happens. I've never seen it do that before, so that's a good thing. Hope you had a good holiday season, and hope you're doing okay. I was kind of concerned about you last month. You haven't missed a net in ages. But I know also everybody needs time to do other things too. I was looking through my logs here, and it was 6 years ago, February 17th, I think, when I first started trying out for this net, trying things out, and that means that probably right about this time 6 years ago is when I bought my first AM transmitter for 2 meters. And if memory serves, we did a whole bunch of testing from February through July, and then in August 2013 is when we started doing this. So it's been a few years. It sure doesn't seem like that long, but that's what it is. I got a whole list of things here that I wrote down over the past couple of weeks to talk about, but I'll see, Frank, what's going on with you first. W9JCC from KC9UDX.
Okay, Matt, very good. And Happy New Year to you. I hope you had a good end of the year there with the Christmas and the holiday season. I did miss last time, and to make it a long story short, I just plain forgot. We were out at a neighborhood party, actually neighbors of ours that moved out about 6 miles west of here. We were over there. Got back in time. I think it was around 7 when I got back, and I started talking to somebody on a repeater, and then I turned on a TV program and started watching that. And the next morning, I says, "Oh my gosh, I forgot the 2 a.m. net, and I could have made it, but that's what happened." So I had a good Christmas here, and I hope you did as well, Matt. So back to you, KC9UDX, W9JCC.
All right, thank you, Frank. And yeah, I know exactly what you mean, but that's okay. You need a break once in a while too, I guess. I hate when that happens, when I realize after the fact that I forgot something. I do that quite a bit, but I guess that's part of getting old, I suppose. And I didn't exactly have the greatest Christmas. It's been pretty obnoxious around here. The kids are all wound up, and that's just not a good time. Worse this year than any other year. I'm not exactly sure why or what the deal is, but that's all over with, I hope. I did not get what I wanted to get done by the end of the year done. I did not spend any time out in the shop, in about a month now. So I do not have my my fancy new workbench down here, which stinks. I have a very clear vision in my head of what this place will look like when it's all cleaned up and functioning properly, and I'm looking forward to that, and I'm a long ways away from that yet. But I did get a couple of things done that I didn't really plan on doing. I fixed my Lowry organ again. I fixed it sometime about a year ago. Well, probably more than that, year and a half, 2 years, I don't even know. But there's a power resistor. It's one of these John Muter resistors. I'm not sure if you're familiar with these. They find themselves in lots of old radio gear too. They're flat wire wound resistors made by the John Muter resistor company. And the engineers that used them in just about everything I've seen them used in seem to not have any, not to get very forgiving with the specifications. They seem to design them exactly for what they needed. And of course, our line voltages have risen since the years when those were in use. And so a lot of equipment that has those things they tend to open up. And that's what happened to the one that was originally in that organ. It actually lasted quite a long time here, and then one day it just quit, and that was the end of that. And last year or 2 years ago, I built a terminal strip with a whole bunch of half-watt resistors to try and get the correct resistance values and also have enough power handling capacity. And I think I missed the boat there. I got the resistance values just right, but I think I'm right back to I might be right back to where they had that other resistor, because the one that I built burned up last last February or March, and I finally got around to rebuilding it again 2 weeks ago, I think. And the new resistors that I put in kind of kind of smoked for a while. It's like they were burning the oil off of them, but they did not open up, and they do not seem to be charred yet. So I suppose it's just a matter of time before I have to replace them again. Fortunately, I don't run that organ when I'm not present, and apparently from what happened last year, I can rely on these flame-proof Chinese resistors to not actually start on fire. So it's not too big of a concern until it opens up again. Then I just have to re-engineer it and do it all over again. And guess I got a bunch of other things I could talk about. I'll just go one more here for now. I have a VCR. A buddy of mine gave me a couple of VCRs because I don't have any working ones, and I've got probably 200 or 300 VHS tapes. I don't know how many are things I've recorded, but these aren't ones that I purchased with movies already on them. They're all things that were either recorded off of TV or recorded with a camcorder. And like I say, I'm not sure how many I recorded with the camcorder, but I'm surprised to find more than I expected, just by randomly picking a few out of the pile. So the idea there is to use content for YouTube videos. And with that, I will see if we have any more check-ins for the 2 a.m. net. Come now, please. All right, hearing none. Last month, Frank, we had Dave WB9BWP and Gary W9TOF made a surprise visit. Pretty sure that's the first time he was ever on this net, and I've been hoping he would get on here for a very long time, and last month he finally did, and that was a great surprise. And I hope I'm not forgetting anybody else. I have kind of a idea that there might have been one more check-in last month that I'm forgetting, but anyway, we'll go back to you, Frank, W9JCC from KC9UDX.
Okay, very good there, Matt. And yeah, I had not heard Gary on here before, so that's the first, so that's kind of neat to have him in here. I don't know, maybe Dale was on too, AB9DW, he sometimes checks in. And yeah, I'm surprised on it more tonight. Yeah, I find on the VHS tapes, I've got a bunch of them that have not been opened in decades. I used to record stuff off the TV. And I don't know how many we got. We got one end table that's got it's basically how it's like a small closet on the inside, but it's full of VHS tapes. I don't know how many I've got in there. Probably 50 or 60, something like that. And I have not played any of them in ages. And I don't even know if they're still good. They might have gotten aged by now. Well, sorry to hear about the organ. I wonder if the resistors are sized properly, though, if they're smoking on you there, Matt. I wonder if you need to have some bigger resistors, or won't they fit? And yeah, fine on the workbench. I hope that gets going there. I got I was going to say pressured, but not pressured to get a new phone here. My kids are getting me all kinds of techie toys. For Christmas, we got an Alexa show, we got a Ring doorbell, and a Hoover Rogue vacuum cleaner. And of course they, to one degree or another, need a Wi-Fi connection and app on a phone. I've got an iPad, but the iPad is okay, but there are some things I want to use the phone for. And I've gotten to the point where if I want to make use of all this other stuff, I've got to get a new phone. So I ordered one 4 or 5 days ago. It should come tomorrow. I got the lowest cost iPhone from Consumer Cellular that I could get. So that's coming tomorrow, so we're going to upgrade from the i4. And my wife can take that one. Yeah, she's got a flip phone right now. Back to you there, Matt. KC9UDX, W9JCC.
All right, thank you, Frank. And yeah, everything seems to need Wi-Fi these days. And I don't have too many things that use phone apps. Probably the GoPro camera, and I'm not sure what else. But yeah, everything wants Wi-Fi. That was actually one of the other things I was going to talk about here, is my cell phone experience the past couple of days. But you're getting a new one, and you won't have to deal with anything like this. I've got a pretty old one, and it's one that was intentionally crippled by the manufacturer to make their higher model, which is exactly the same hardware, look like a better, well, actually to make the higher model, worth more. And you can almost do nothing with this phone as it comes from the factory. And I have, it's an Android phone, so you can pretty much do whatever you want if you're resourceful. And I've modified the phone to the point where it's extremely usable and it works very well. But I may have accidentally deleted something that makes that all work last week or whenever it was here. It actually could have been up to 2 months ago, I suppose. I could have accidentally deleted it because I don't normally reboot the phone ever, and when I rebooted it did not recover because a lot of the stuff that makes all that stuff work was missing. So it took me a couple of days here to get it sort of back. It's not back where I had it, but it's almost, and it's very usable again. So the only thing I'm missing is a bunch of my preferences, and I'm not sure why. I have to figure that out yet. I lost my screen resolution preference. When you get these phones, they have everything on the screen just gigantic. I guess that's to appeal to the most amount of people, but I always change the resolution so everything's really small. And my launcher settings, where all the icons are arranged and everything, I have a very particular way of arranging them, and I seem to have lost that, and that's it's a little strange. I normally keep backups of that type of thing, and I don't know what I did with it, so I'll have to do that again or find my backup. What else was I talking about here? You mentioned getting some things that I'm not even sure what they are. I don't keep up with a lot of the modern modern stuff. Well, I was talking about that VCR, and I think I interrupted myself. A guy gave me a really fancy VCR. It's one that is intended to connect to a computer, and then you control it by software. Uh, and I don't have the manual. The manual tells you how to operate it that way. Now this is, if you can remember what computers were like 30 years ago, this is how this works. It's got an RS-232 port on it, and you read the manual and you program your own computer to make the thing do what you want, I suppose. I don't think there's any pre-made software for it. So without the manual, you can't do any of that, but otherwise it's a normal VCR. Except that it has a really nice feature. It never puts anything, never does not have an on-screen display. Nothing is ever on the screen, which is very helpful for what I'm using it for. Now, the real only reason I wanted to talk about this VCR was that when I got it, you'd put a tape in, and it would eat the tape and then jam up and then turn off, and every time you tried to turn it on, it would just turn itself back off again. And it took me a while to get that going again. I had to re-lube the entire mechanism, and one belt was stretched to the point where it was slipping and not doing what it needed to do, and that was the number one cause of it. Now, of course, it didn't have enough traction even under normal circumstances with everything dry. But with it lubed, it still couldn't. The belt was way too loose, so I used some rubber renew, and then I cut the belt and cut a section out of it and glued it back together, and it's actually working now, which is kind of surprising. I don't have a lot of luck gluing those type of belts, and I'm not sure why. I can glue O-rings all day long and make them work, but gluing those belts, maybe by the time I get them and have to do that, the rubber is deteriorated to the point where that doesn't work anymore. I'm not sure, but it's pretty rare to have success in doing that, and it did work. And you made a comment about the tapes. If you're not sure if they're good anymore, I've got tapes from I think my oldest tapes come from 1979, and I have a whole lot of them from the early to mid 80s. And to my surprise, again, pulling these out and putting them in the VCR, they're in incredibly good condition yet. I was expecting to see some kind of video deterioration, and even the ones on extended play, which the quality is horrible like that, they actually look very good. So that's that. Now I'm going to end up talking here if I don't give myself a break. So let's see if we have any more check-ins for the 2 a.m. net. Come now, please.
Whiskey Bravo 9. Bravo Whiskey Papa.
All right, there's Dave, WB9BWP. And that's one of the other things I wanted to say here, Frank. The guy that I, for some reason, was forgetting, and I don't know how I forgot this, who checked in last month was Jerry, K9FI. It had been a long time since he had checked in here, and we had a good time getting his radio up to spec there. So that was, I'm surprised that I forgot him, but I didn't totally forget him. I had to jog my memory. Anyway, Dave, WB9BWP, welcome to the net. It's your turn. Go ahead, please. KC9UDX here.
Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm late. I was actually doing ham stuff. I was on the phone with a guy who, he's a club member. He kind of disappeared for about, I don't know, 20 or 30 years or so, and now he's back. And he called with some antenna installation questions. So I get points for doing ham stuff. Let's see. And, yeah, I don't know when Jerry will be back. You know, you got one out of him, and it might take a few more years for a second one. I do know that he, just the other night, he fired up his fusion radio, and I heard him on one of the wires rooms that happened to be up on the repeater, and he jumped in there, and that was the first forum there. So let's see what else is going on here. I went from actually having the bench cleared off to having it all full of stuff again.
I started one project, and then something else had to pop up, and then that led to something else, and you know how it goes with the chain reaction there, and um, before you know it, I've got like 4 things that are in process. Um, hopefully I'll get them actually finished in some semblance of order, and they'll actually work right. One of the things was I came across a sale price on some hard drives made for network storage boxes, and I've got 2 network attached storage boxes down here that handle all of my stuff from around the house. I have 3. I sold off one just because it was older, and the operating system on it, the manufacturer software couldn't be updated anymore on that particular piece of hardware. So I'm down to 2. So I put some bigger drives in them to hold all the stuff. One takes care of what I call data, and that's all the normal files, let's say, including design work that I do. I store all of that stuff. And then I have photos that that's a project that will probably never be finished. I've got probably a couple of thousand slides that need scanning. I got a scanner last year that can do pictures and slides, multiple pictures and slides at one time. I used that to get a lot of the club slides done. I had some old slides dating all the way back to I think the oldest was 1915. I got that stuff scanned. Anyway, photos, then I have lots of musical things in digital form. And then a video, both store-bought and stuff that I've collected over time. So all that stuff that's on now what amounts to 2 network-attached storage boxes. And I have some batch files that take care of backing up stuff from the office computer down to those. Anyway, I got some new drives, so I had to install the disks and then copy all the stuff over there, which, for each one took a day. And I think I just got them finished. Now I have to get them back configured properly. And boy, that's a lot of babbling on a simple project right there. Don't know who else is here, as I just got in, I think it might have been Frank was just finishing up. And then, you were talking, I don't know if we're it or not. Just the 3 of us, or if there's other names in there. So, I'll send it back to Matt. This is WB9BWP.
Yes, Dave, we are it. So far, anyway. And network attached storage. Seems like that's a pretty big thing going on lately for everybody. I was actually surprised. I've been doing that for a very, probably since I first started using Ethernet at home in the 1990s. I've had network attached storage, but just lately it seems like all kinds of people who you wouldn't expect are doing that. I've I've got a obscene array of different things here storing data. Only one device that's supposed to be network attached storage right now, and that's a Raspberry Pi with a external hard external hard drive. But I've got another machine that's it's an old PC, about 15 years old, that I use for processing video for YouTube videos because the Raspberry Pis just don't have the horsepower to do that in a reasonable amount of time. And that is slowly turning into a data server, only because I required a large hard drive for that, and it's just convenient because it runs NetBSD instead of Linux. It's convenient for me anyway to get files on and off of it. Linux is kind of finicky these days because everybody's so worried about internet security and all this stuff. And NetBSD, well, you do whatever you want in NetBSD, so there aren't a whole lot of things stopping you from doing stuff. And that's why that's a little bit easier. In fact, I used that today to recover the information on my phone. I could not have done that under Linux. I tried and I failed. I could not have done it under Windows. I did require that NetBSD computer, so that actually worked out very well. I've got a huge, well, it's not huge by today's standards, but it's physically huge, and it was a really big deal when it was new. I've got a 50 gigabyte RAID array. It's the size of a small refrigerator. and that I use for my video toaster. I've got a computer that's about twice the size of that thing, which you may have seen in my YouTube videos, which is also a file server, but it is down for the count right now. Something quit working in there, so I've got to tear that apart someday. And of course, I've got a large archive of tapes, floppy disks, cartridges, all that kind of stuff too. Oh, I have literally thousands of Video 8 videotape cartridges that were used for data storage. And for that reason, I recently bought a Video 8 camcorder because I needed an NTSC camera, a small light one, and it worked out well because I have all these Video 8 tapes, so I bought a Video 8 one instead of a VHS-C one. Got it at St. Vincent de Paul. And here I am rambling again, so I think there was something else I wanted to say and I forgot, but that's okay because I'm talking too much. We are at the bottom of the list. Do we have any more check-ins for the 2 a.m. net? Come now, please. Hearing none, we'll go back to the top of the list. Frank, W9JCC from KC9UDX.
Okay, thank you, Matt, and good evening, Dave. I can copy Dave fairly well. I was having a little trouble before I had the bandwidth wide open here on the TS2000, but as soon as I put the upper end down to 3 kilohertz, it seemed to knock out a lot of noise, and Dave came in reasonably well. And I was curious on your Android phone there, Matt. I'm assuming you did all that work modifying it from the outside with commands and so forth and loading apps. And kind of thinking taking one apart would not be a good thing to do, but you might clarify that. And as far as the old computers go, I'm thinking back. I think one of the early ones I had, I think it was called a Sinclair. It had a keyboard that had like membrane keypad on it. I don't remember too much about what it did. It didn't do a whole lot. And I remember not using it too much. My first Windows machine was, I think it was Windows 95, and I think we've had every Windows since then. But about a year and a half ago, I got rid of all the older computers. I hated to do it, but they were just sitting down here doing nothing, and I figured we'd just liquidate the whole bunch. So the only ones we got now are a couple of Windows 10 machines and some a laptop and an iPad. I wonder if you got to the Swap Fest there, Matt, and Dave also. I didn't get to walk around too much when I first got there. I got there early. I had a ticket to get in early, so I took a quick walk around 7 o'clock, and then I went up to our table for the West Side Radio Club. And we had a lot of traffic up there. We had a lot of guys renewing their membership and pulling a few new members as well. So I decided to stay up there the whole time. And finding Jerry getting on here, I don't know if I've heard Jerry on here or not. I may have heard it once before. And so, well, not too much more on this one. Let's turn it back to net control, and back she comes, Matt, W9JCC.
All right, thank you, Frank. And I wasn't even aware of the Swap Fest. I'm assuming that is the West Dallas Club. They have their Swap Fest in the round building at the Expo Center here in Waukesha. I haven't been to that in probably, I don't know, maybe 5 years now. Well, probably not. I suppose you could look on YouTube. I think I made a video the last time I was there. Uh, maybe 3 years ago, something like that. I guess time kind of creeps up on you. I would have liked to have gone to that one again, but not happening. I was probably working anyway. I do need to go to one at some point here this year just to renew my club memberships. I think I may have missed an entire year of MRAC and Mars, so I've got to get that taken care of. And as far as the phone, there's a handful of stuff that you have to do externally to do what I did. You have to root the phone, which means the manufacturer prevents you from doing whatever you want to it, and you have to get rid of that prevention, and that's rooting the phone, and that's the first thing I had to do. And in fact, you mentioned Windows 10 and all of that. I have not had Windows computers here very much. I've had all kinds of other things, and I just don't like Windows, but I have a funny feeling at some point here I'm going to have to break down and get a newer one of these 64-bit computers. I hate to do it, but I might have to. And this deal with the Android phone is one of the things that is making me think that. I've got a couple of things here recently that my newest Windows computers run Windows XP, and you can kind of make some of this stuff work even though they don't want you to. Everybody tells you you can't use XP, and you shouldn't, and I do it anyway. Now this deal with the Android phone, I had to connect to it from the computer yesterday, I think, and I downloaded the software from Google, and it does not run on my computer anymore because it's not 64-bit. And fortunately, I had that backed up, and I was able to get an old version of it because Google does not give you old versions of anything. So I was fortunate to have a backup of that and still make it work. Otherwise, I'd be up a creek without a paddle here. Fortunately, I think that a lot of this stuff could be done with Linux now, so I wouldn't necessarily have to have Windows 10. I'd like to avoid Windows 10 like the plague. And I do remember the Sinclair ZX81. I did not have one. Back then I had a Commodore 64, which was light years better than the ZX81. At least I thought so. I think I would have been able to appreciate a ZX81 as a hobbyist machine, despite the membrane keyboard and the poor connectors on it that cause it to reboot when you don't want it to. I think I could have appreciated one of those if I had one, but I didn't. I saved my money for a long time, and I bought a Commodore 64. And that one died in 1994, I think. But I've got a couple more of them here. I've got one sitting right next to me. I got it from Roland, KD9Y. I actually got 3 or 4 of them from him. I think that's where all of the ones I have right now came from. He was cleaning out and selling off all of his stuff shortly before he passed away. I think he was pretty confident that he knew the end was coming and just didn't tell anybody. He was selling everything off. What else was I going to say about that? Well, the next thing I had here on my list is a battery pack, and the reason I thought to say this was Dave, you mentioned you did something ham radio related, and this is kind of something anti-ham radio that I did. I my son got a remote controlled car for Christmas, and the thing is just terrible. It's a lousy, typical Chinese thing, and it doesn't work very well. So I've got a remote controlled car here that somebody gave me in the 1990s, and it had its original battery pack. Well, I gave it to my son to use, and the battery on it surprisingly still works, but not very well. And so I cannibalized a battery pack for my handheld 2 meter FM uh, HTX 202. I cannibalized my best battery pack for that, and turned it into a battery pack for that remote controlled car, which it does a very good job for that purpose. But now I don't have a good battery pack for those handhelds that I can't even remember the last time I used. Can't even remember the last time I turned one of them on. So that's why I didn't feel too bad about doing that. But it's probably not a good thing. That means I probably won't turn them on for a very long time coming. And now I lost my place here. I think, Dave, it's your turn. WB9BWP. I've been rambling too long here. Dave, I think it's your turn. KC9UDX here.
Okay. It's real easy to ramble on, like on HF or anytime you're not on a repeater. You get timers, force discipline. But that's okay. I mean, I can ramble better than probably anybody. So, there'd be an interesting contest. Let's see who can ramble on them. Take a few days. Yeah, I was at the Hamfest. I walked around handing out flyers for our Hamfest, which, hey, that's a good plug for MRAC and Mars Hamfest on March 23rd over at Yells Club across from HRO. And it includes the free table, Frank, don't forget that one. Even though we got to put the free table out in the hall because we fill up that space. We've changed this year to making table sales a lower price advance and raising the price. I think it's like 10 days or something before the fest, because we've had this issue where as we're sitting around 2-3 weeks before talking about what should we do for prizes or other things, and we look and see that we've had like 10 tables sold, and thinking that, oh man, we're not going to make any money here, we're not going to have any money here. And then suddenly in the last week, we get orders for 40 or 50 tables. So we were thinking that by putting a higher price on it, if you wait, maybe that'll wake up a few people a little earlier. Maybe not, who knows? I guess we'll see what happens on that one. But anyway, that's March 23rd. Also this year, even though it just benefits us in name only, Superfest down in September, because this year is 100 years of ARL affiliation for MRAC, in an effort to try to get maybe somebody big, not that Intervitson isn't important, but somebody even bigger from ARL. So HRO has got Superfest designated not just the state convention, but Central Division Convention, and put our name on it also, even though we're not really doing anything. And of course they will make money from all the business they get. But that way it might help to entice a few other league officials to get on a plane and come out. A lot of people never knew that some of the people back in the old days of Superfest, AES, especially like Gordon West or when ARL president things would come out, that's because AES was paying them, or at least paying for the trip, paying their expenses. But Gordon West doesn't go anywhere without getting his expenses covered and how he's able to get around. You gotta give him credit for having his hobbies make a living off his hobbies. Both ham radio and he's into boating and stuff too. And he's written articles for sailing magazines. He does some stuff with I think Coast Guard Auxiliary out there. But anyway, yeah, they were being subsidized. And when Ray left, Ray Grenier retired, all that went away. Of course, the guy that owned AES, he didn't want to spend any money anyway, so he was glad when Ray retired. Anyway, so, and that's, like I say, that's the end of September. And there'll be a dinner there, possibly the Thursday night, right before Superfest, which would normally be a meeting night. For a while we were kicking around Saturday night, but then it was like, well, some of us are going to be pretty beat up after 2 days of Superfest, so perhaps we're talking about doing Thursday, and that better happen quickly as far as making arrangements goes. Otherwise, won't be able to get the day. But so there's some future things there. FM Simplex contest is also coming up in this year, February 10th. So there's my club plug. So we get that stuff out of the way. I never talk about the Hamfest and stuff until West Dallas is over with. Let them get their publicity. Oh, and I listened to earlier today. I don't know if it was the Hamfest that prompted it or just what, but I don't know the particular program, but something on NPR radio this morning, some talk show. There's about a 20-minute segment with the president of West Dallas Club and Patrick, K1RB, talking about amateur radio. And they did okay. It could have been maybe a little slicker, but I know full well about how you flop on any of those interview things. They did that when Newsline talked to me a couple of years ago for the 100th. I talked about the parking lot Hamfest during the Hamvention weekend, I think, and I said it was during Field Day weekend. So I use that as a test. Okay, who after listening to this can pick out the mistake? So that's my attempt at dabbling there. So I better send it back to Nat. This is WB9BWP.
All right, thank you, Dave. And I guess it would be nice if that dinner was nailed down here very soon. The only reason I say that from my perspective here, I have until the 15th to put in for vacation, and I would definitely put in for vacation for that. And I'd hate to put in for vacation then it doesn't happen on that day. So maybe if that gets settled by the 15th, I think you have my email address. If you could send me an email and let me know, I would greatly appreciate that. Yeah, we are. We're all doing a good job of rambling here. We're at the bottom of the list. Let's see if we have any more check-ins for the 2 a.m. net. Come now, please. Hearing none. The only reason I bring that up is we're actually running low on time here. I didn't think it was that late, but it is. But that's okay. We got a couple more go-arounds here. I think I covered everything I needed to talk about that I had wrote down here over the past couple weeks. Oh no, there's one more thing. I made the mistake of investing in a piece of hardware to do the live stream on YouTube here. Hopefully I'd be able to use it for what we're doing here now and a bunch of the other things I do, and it not just for live streaming, for all of YouTube uploads. Uh, it's better in some ways than my old setup with the TV dongle thing, and in other ways it's not. The quality on it's horrendous. The video quality, which is sort of surprising. It's a fancy, expensive piece of equipment, and it probably does a very good job at these super high resolution HD uh, uh, picture. You know, I don't know what to say, how to call it, but it doesn't do a very good job at NTSC. Now, of course, NTSC is an afterthought for everybody, and they all think it's 640 by 480 digital, and it's just not. So it's quantized all wrong, and it just looks terrible. So I may be looking to find a buyer for that thing, and maybe put the money towards a different one. There's one out there that has a hard drive built into it, and so you don't have to hook it up to a computer at all. And I'd be interested to try that one, but maybe I'll find somebody else that can try it out for what I want to use it for, and let me know first if it's actually going to work, because this one does it's very disappointing. It's a I think this is pronounced Hauppauge PVR2. Anyway, go back to the top of the list here before I run us out of time. Frank W9JCC, it's your turn again from KC9UDX.
Okay, thank you, Matt. And yeah, that was the West Dallas Club, I believe, there at the Ham or Slapfest on Saturday. You mentioned you don't use anything Windows 10, but you're using Windows XP. I've got a very nice scanner that not only scans but does 35 millimeter slides 4 at a time. It's in brand new condition, and if anybody wants it, it's yours for the taking. That's the one thing I didn't trash when I was getting rid of all the electronic stuff. But it does not work on Windows 10. They just won't support it. And I guess that's one of the pitfalls there is they keep moving up the ladder on these things. I've lost stuff on my iPhone 4. You had a real nice spectrum app on there that I could use to control the TV box. And it was real nice for when I went to bed. I could watch a little TV and I could control the box downstairs. And they quit supporting that app. So when I get my new phone, I'll be able to put the new app on there, and it should work okay. And Dave, I didn't know you had the free table over there at the fest. If I would have known that, I would have kind of coerced my grandson to come along. He used to like to get in there and grab some stuff off the free table and tear things apart when he got home. This year we were in the balcony. Sent the check in kind of late for the tables, and so we ended up upstairs. But it turned out pretty good. We had quite a bit of traffic up there and had a pretty good time. So I don't have too much more. I think I'll turn it back to Net Control. Matt, W9JCC.
All right, thank you, Frank. And as far as Windows XP goes, I don't like it, and I run it because I have to. I've got two things that I have here that require it. One is that Hauppauge thing, and I don't see a way around that. Every solution I've come up with for that has required Windows in some way here, except for if I buy this other one that has the hard drive built in. That shouldn't, but I don't know yet. And I've got one other application for Windows XP which I will probably keep for a very, very long time. I've got some CAD software that only runs on there, and so I'll probably have that for an eternity, and I sure could use a scanner, so I may take you up on that here at some point. Dave, WB9BWP, it's your turn again from KC9UDX.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, no, Frank didn't have the free table read with Alice. We'll have one at ours in March. Um, as usual. If nothing else, I've got a lot of 73s and QSTs that need to go. I'm taking small handfuls to club meetings. I still have quite a big pile in the back room, so time for some bigger handfuls. So even if there's nothing else on the table, there'll be a bunch of magazines. I know that won't interest your grandson there, but hey, you never know, man. That'll help to give him a little nudge. He can get his license too, right? In Windows things, I've got one Windows 10 computer here, newer laptop, again about newer, a little over 2 years now. Microsoft, of course, in their quest for world domination and as much money as possible, if you buy a new hardware, if you buy a new processor, and you build yourself a box, and then you put, say, Windows 7 on it, anything other than Windows 10, and you go and you try to get any updates for it, they will politely tell you, sorry, we're not going to give you any updates for that because we want you running Windows 10 on new hardware. I guess officially they say it works best with new hardware kind of thing. They try to put a spin on it so they don't make it sound like they're just trying to squeeze everybody. But that's what they're doing. So someday I keep thinking about I need to rebuild the box, my main computer upstairs, and I'm like, but then I'll have to put 10 on there. The network boxes I got there, a company called Synology, they have their own operating system, which is a Linux variant, I think. That those boxes run with a bunch of their own programs that run on top of it. And as I'm fiddling with folder structure and stuff while between microphone things here. And yeah, it looks like we are running short of time here. So I don't know if you're gonna want to come around again or not, just in case. I'll throw in the 73 now, and then that gives everybody else plenty of time, because I've babbled a lot here tonight. And I announced this, in fact, last night was the MFOENet, and I announced it on there, and I tell people even about the YouTube thing and stuff, but I guess people just get scared when you say AM, and they're like, what? I can't do that. I don't know. That's the best excuse I can come up with. So I'll send it back to Nat. This is WB9BWP.
All right, thank you, Dave. And my opinion is that the number one reason why nobody like that comes around here is because we only do this once a month, and it's at an odd time on an odd day. If this was at everybody's preference, now unfortunately this is what we discovered when we determined what day to do this on. Everybody's got a different preference for what day and time is the right time to do this. But if it was at everybody's preference and it was every week, I think we'd have a lot more people showing up regularly. But otherwise, we get what we get, and I think we do a pretty good job here anyway. We certainly don't get bored. A lot of different people have come and gone that were regulars here over the years. In fact, if I look back in the log, I'm thinking that Jerry was here every week, or every month, I should say, for a couple of months anyway. We had some other regulars back in the beginning, but then it kind of dried up, and Frank showed up, and Frank has been here every month for a long time, except for that one last month. But like I say, we have good conversation anyway. It's just the few of us that we normally get here, and it works good. I'm gonna check one last time if there's anybody else that wants to check in here at the very last minute here. Come now, please. Hearing none, I am kind of surprised we didn't at least get one or two more, only because I think Frank, you mentioned it. When I first turned the radio on, I think the band is open. I was hearing all kinds of things that I wouldn't normally expect to hear. But of course, with my receiver and its wide bandwidth, I could just be hearing a couple of nearby active repeaters. I'm not sure. But I don't want to start babbling here again. I think I did the most tonight. We'll do one more round here for 7-3s. Frank, W9JCC, 7-3 round.
Okay, well, thanks, Matt. And, yeah, not too much more. If you're interested in that scanner, just shoot me an email, and it's yours for the taking. It's got everything that was in the box when I bought it, except the box. And other than that, good hearing everybody tonight, good hearing Dave, and we'll try to remember to get on here next week. 73 is all, and thanks for running the net there, Matt. Great job, as usual. KC9UDX, W9JCC.
All right, thank you, Frank. And if you remember to be here next week, you'll be the only one. Well, that's not necessarily true. You could fire it up, and you never know who else would be there. The other thing and there's 9 o'clock, but the other thing I was going to say about the scanner, I've got two scanners here that I bought in the 1990s, which were extremely high quality scanners, and both of them have developed stuck pixels in the CCD elements. So, it's one of those things I've been meaning to do for at least 10 years now, is to open those things up and repair them. But getting a different scanner would solve that problem, I guess. So I will send you an email as soon as I get my email 100% working here on the phone again, which should be late tonight sometime if I get an opportunity. Dave, WB9BWP, 7-3 round.
Oh, okay. 73 to both of you guys there. Yeah, it's a good thing that I made it in here, and yeah, it's always good here. It's a net where you don't have to necessarily come in with any particular topic, but there's never a shortage of things to talk about. And, so I think we do good. So 73 to everybody, and yeah, I'll definitely let you know, Matt, when they get the dinner date squared away. I'll lean on them by the time of the meeting here at the end of the month, because we almost ran into trouble last time with the normal 100th, and especially if we're going to have any big shots or other manufacturing types there. And that's where it's great to do it around Superfest, because all these people are coming in. Anyway, 73 to all, and before it gets too late there for Matt, I'll send it back to Net Control. This is WB9BWP.
All right, thank you, Dave. And you're right, we don't ever run out of things to talk to here. So, this concludes the 2 a.m. net. Feel free to reg chew on this frequency after my transmission. We will meet again on the 12th of February, 2019. Until then, this is KC9UDX 7-3, and good night. I think we had a good net here again, as always. 7-3, guys, KC9UDX.